What was the biggest thing that stuck out of you in Game 1?
Yeah, the biggest thing was the Celtics' energy versus what the Mavs had coming out of the gate. It just seemed like, the Mavs were kind of stuck in mud early, or if they weren't, the Celtics were just that much sharper, more intent, more energetic. There were way more multiple efforts early from the Celtics. In a way that really set the tone for the game. The tempo was up. No one was messing around with the ball. There weren't stagnant possessions and stagnant touches. Like, Boston was clearly the more ready team coming out of the gates last night.
Just from the beginning stretch, and I kept thinking about you, Ra, where I was just the defensive intensity was at an all-time high for the Boston Celtics, and the defense was so good that it really erased a lot of the bad things that happened with that came across with the Boston Celtics. I'm talking about Jason Tatum, who I think went 6 of 16, played great defense, but it masked a lot of their flaws and a lot of the things that they didn't have together. We'll get to some of the shortcomings, and particularly that third quarter for the Celtics, but the biggest thing that stuck out to me, and this was a question going into the series, a question that me and you actually had a back and forth with on the last pod of how the Mavericks were going to guard Luka and Kyrie, and they did a really good job, specifically with Luka. Kyrie, we'll talk about that in a second. I have some thoughts on just how Kyrie played and how he came into the series, and maybe there were some nerves there. I'm not sure, but the biggest thing that I was scared of was putting a Jaylen Brown on Luka and what that physicality would do for him on the offensive end. It didn't do anything. He was the leading scorer for the Boston Celtics and was able to kind of impose his will on Luka. I know Luka had 30 and was the game high, but it took him 26 shots, only had 1 assist.
He worked. Yeah, he worked for that.
He worked for that. There was a time in the third quarter where Jaylen I've been really impressed by Jaylen Brown. We'll talk about that throughout this podcast, but he was really good that night. What did you think of the defense from him on Luka Doncic, and can that be sustainable throughout the series?
Luka's not going to shoot like that for an entire series. Luka's as good as anyone in the league. He'll go back to the film and he'll see some areas, and I saw them with my naked eye, where he didn't have to work as hard for shots. Like, he had already kind of created one, and he passed it up. There were a few of those that I thought, overall, if you're shooting those over the course of time, it's gonna lend itself to you shooting a better percentage and being a better offensive version of yourself. But I did think Jaylen Brown came out with intent to pick Luka up early, make him work in ways, even to get the ball across half court. You just talked about that possession where he stripped him in the backcourt. Like, typically Luka isn't getting picked up in the backcourt on most nights. Like, you rarely seen him have to work the ball to get it across half court. He's usually in the front court before somebody kind of locks in and starts challenging where he can go with the ball. So Jaylen Brown came out. That was obviously part of the game plan. Get him off of his spots, which I think as a primary defender is the first point of attack with any like world-class scorers, to get them off of the spots that they're used to operating in to start possessions, right? And then his energy and his length were on display all night. Like, not just as the primary defender on Luka, but as a secondary defender, and in some instances as the helper guy, where he's got to come across and boom, he's at the rim, like blocking a dunk, or catching a Kyrie, deflecting a lob, as it's going up, or getting a piece of Kyrie's floater. I thought his energy just jumped off the page. And interestingly, this is what I was kind of saying about like the Luka offensive piece as it related to Boston defensively. They've got a bunch of guys that, like, even Al Horford did a pretty good job staying in front, and you shoot this contested J over me, but it's going to be a heavily contested J. I'm 7 feet. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are both okay, but Jaylen is the type of player that I think, because he's such an energy guy, that defense can fuel that offense. So like, if he's engaged and locked in and having success on that side of the ball, and any of that specifically relates to getting him out in transition and getting like some kind of bang out like that, now he becomes a different animal on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, the other thing, and I've talked about this with LeBron, where I forgot, I think it was the Warriors series, or maybe it was the Western Conference Finals last year, where the strategy should be to just attack LeBron on the offensive and defensive end to tire him out. LeBron, even at this advanced stage, is so much even more incredibly more conditioned than Luka is. But you saw throughout the series or throughout the game one where Luka was just getting tired. He was getting his ass kicked the whole game. And by the start, I think, of the fourth quarter, he was gassed. I think that's the game plan going forward if I'm the Celtics, right? It's just, I'm just going to kick his ass. I'm going to make him tired, because if we've ever seen with Luka throughout, his postseason time, it is him generating the offense. It is him trying to initiate. And the anecdote to that is, okay, get what you need to get, Luka. We're going to make it as hard as it can possibly be for you to get those 30 and 10. He got a double-double. It was great. But we're going to make it as hard as it can possibly get. And last night, you saw all of the critiques of the Dallas Mavericks come true, in that when it's Luka's offense and no one else can really get their fair share and really can get their bag. We'll talk about Kyrie in a second. But that seems like the game plan going forward, because if you kick Luka's ass, the other guys are following him, the P.J. Washingtons, the Derrick Jones, the Lively, who got in a bit of foul trouble. But when they kind of galvanize around Luka, and when he's tired and he's grabbing ass and he's not being the conditioned guy that he should be, it really rears its ugly head. And I think you saw that a lot in game one, and that affected a lot of the Mavericks offense throughout the game.
Yeah, well, let's start with the defensive piece for the Mavericks. You're always going to look around your lineup, no matter if it's Luka or any other team with a star like that, and you're going to have to protect somebody. And even if they're all great defensive players, you're probably going to want to protect the guy whose primary job is to initiate offense, right? Because it's a workload, and at some point, it's going to hurt your ability to score the ball to have him working so hard on the defensive end. So even if he's not a great defender, let's give him an assignment that protects his energy reserve. Boston has too many weapons to really hide Luka. You didn't have a quote-unquote Tony Allen on the floor. This is a different day and an age where everyone on the Boston Five can create. Even Al Horford in an advanced age in his career.
His old ass was getting to the cup. He was out here hitting threes.
Started the game off a swing, quick, hard pump fake, and like straight down the baseline and piped it on somebody.
Did a little bit of you feel like, yeah, I could still do this? Like, give me 10 days? No? Okay.
Because I had ran 8 110s earlier in the day as part of my workout, and my back was already seizing up on me. So like there was no chance that was gonna that anything like that would register. But when you're trying to hide a Luka, there's got to be somewhere to hide him. And Boston doesn't provide you that opportunity with those lineups because they can all get it. So the only thing that works against you if you're Boston is the shot clock at that point. If Dallas can negotiate and navigate all of the different screens that you're going to bring into play in a way that keeps Luka off of the ball before the shot clock runs out, you win. But if they can figure it out, Boston that is, and get Luka to have to be in one of those actions with about 7 to 8 seconds on the shot clock, now you've got your guy. And no matter who it is in that five, I just told you, they can create, whether it's Al in the post with Luka or any of the rest of them out there on the perimeter. And that's going to be a problem. You saw them start trying to zone up a little bit to try to protect. There were different things that the Mavericks tried to various levels of success. I want to talk about the other part of it, which is Luka scoring relatively inefficiently, having the boards, but not having the assists. And I talk about, as a coach, living in this space all the time. What you can't have is Luka getting his and then spoon feeding everyone else. Can't do that. And by spoon feeding, and I said this to Ryan, like, I don't mean it disrespectful. I used to get spoon fed. That means Logan creates, and then he just drops it to me, and all I have to do is execute the shot that I work on all the time, albeit whether it's a dunk, a layup, or a three, right? Like, you've done all the work. I just got to cash out now. What the Boston Celtics did a good job of was navigating, like, Luka's going to get his, and we're going to kind of stay home and let him get tough shots, make tough shots. But if he gets rid of it, we are going to be there in a way that player now doesn't just get to execute a wide open shot. He's got to do something to create. If it's one dribble, if it's a head fake, quick bounce and dunk, whatever it is, he's got to do something with the ball to score, and that changes the math exponentially.